Welcome into the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Casey Phillips here with my very special guest, Martín Gramática. Martín, thanks for being with us.
Oh, happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, you saved my life. That we definitely had. It was a rough night of obviously players with overnight flight, and just people are probably still even asleep at this point. It feels like after they get in. So thank you so much. I know you got a chance to call the game as well, so you were watching, and not the outcome that the Bucs were hoping for, especially on a primetime matchup. So for you, just big picture kind of takeaways from this game of what happened and what went wrong, especially early.
Well, I wish I could still be asleep. That way I wouldn't have to talk about the game. But no,
right.
no.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those, when you travel to the West Coast, it's not easy. And then on top of that, to not start fast, I think it kind of snowballed from there. But the biggest concern where all the Bucs fans are waiting is how bad is Baker's shoulder, because that's the one ththing that without him, this is a different team, and when he puts that team on his shoulders and he carries the team to victories. But that's what you get from him. You need a first down. He's going to lower his shoulder and run two guys over to get it. And unfortunately, in this case, they seem to, at least we thought that's the play that where he kind of aggravated it or hurt it. So hopefully he's fine. But that's the biggest take of it. I mean, the result's not a positive result on the game, but we want to make sure that he's healthy because we need him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that whether or not you have Baker is even bigger than one game's win or loss for sure. You mentioned that about how he lowers his shoulder, and it's so interesting. So he's rushed 16 times on third down this season. 14 of those have gone for first downs, including 2 in the game yesterday. That is the highest first down rush percentage on third down attempts among all quarterbacks. I mean, this is not necessarily what you even thought of why you signed him or what it's not like when people talk about the mobile QBs that can run on you, that Baker is always at the top of that list. But this has become such an important part of what he does and what that's meant to the team of whether or not you have him.
And it's all heart. His runs are all hard. They're not designed. They're not, like some guys, you have that designed third down run. In his case, it's all something breaks down. I don't have an open guy. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get there. I remember last year the Bosa pass, on fourth down. That defines Baker to a T. Stiff arming probably the strongest D lineman in the NFL and getting that first down. But he's going to do whatever it takes, not only to get that first down, but also to elevate his teammates and energize his teammates, energizes the whole stadium. So, yeah, it's incredible because I view it as, I always say, like in the broadcast, we say he's a linebacker playing quarterback. Because that's really what he is.
Yeah, no, that's so true. So I know you've been in locker rooms after tough losses, tough stretches. Tell me, in your mind, what is going on in their minds right now, the way they are going to have to bounce back from this, try to recover, because it's one thing to have a tough loss, but it's this mid-season lull here, knowing what they think they're capable of for this back part of the season. And that's when everybody says, the real football begins after Thanksgiving is when things really matter. So how do they try to move on from this and know that they're in the right mental space, and again, with or without Baker, for moving forward?
Well, we've experienced it because it happened last year as well. So it's something that the guys that experienced it last year know how to bounce back, how to get back from it. But now you have divisional opponents, and we were going to see Carolina, we're going to see Atlanta, we're going to see the Saints. So these are the games that you need to win. Obviously, you want to win them all, but these 3 games that we kind of slipped a little bit aren't going to hurt us if we keep winning in our division, because that's the goal. The goal is to get into the playoffs, and then anything could happen. So that's where I think we still control our destiny, and that's the important part of it.
Yeah, and it feels like I know the league likes to put, several of the division games late in the schedule because of that very reason, but it has felt very back part weighted on these divisional games for the Bucs this year. And what is that like to have so many of those so close to each other at the end of the season, when it's teams that typically maybe, you play them once at the beginning of the season, once later, they might be different teams, but you're going to be facing them so close to each other here.
And I think they are different teams. We see Carolina start off not great, and all of a sudden now they look like they could be dangerous. At first, you can kind of chalk them up as a win, pretty much. So I think that's the dangerous part of having them all backloaded, because now if you get some injuries or let's say Baker's not back for a while, that could be dangerous. But I feel like we have the players and we have the leaders that'll get these guys going, whether Baker's in or not. But I think obviously with Baker we have a better chance. But I think I like it when they split it out a little bit more, and obviously you want it towards the end, so you have those competitive games at the end that means something. Because if you're out, early on, then it's not a fun season, I guess you would say. In this case, it makes it interesting because every game's going to matter, especially when you face pretty much every divisional opponent coming up in the near future.
We're talking to Buccaneers legend Martín Gramática here. So these mid-season lulls, it has happened a couple years in a row. Do you feel like it's almost sort of just a coincidence based on what happens in the schedule or injuries, or is there something that's linking these if you were to try to establish what's kind of going on in these mid-season lulls that then they have to dig out of a little bit?
Yeah, I think we have to look at the injuries. I mean, the amount of injuries, but to key players, because every team, you look at every roster, they're going to have injuries. But when you have, Mike Evans go out, Godwin, Bucky, these guys that are game changers, obviously now, hopefully Baker's just, hopefully he can come back for the next game. I think the one that hurt the most, in my opinion, was the Patriots one at home, because that's one that I feel like we could have had. Obviously, when you go to Buffalo on the road, it's a tough game. You want to win it. I thought we played really good football for 3.5 quarters, and all of a sudden, Buffalo is the Buffalo that we all expect. They stepped up. And then last night, when you start slow in the West Coast, it's hard for guys to come back. It's hard to come back, especially with Matthew Stafford in such a potent offense. So it was hard to come back. But the one I feel like out of the three that really hurts was that Patriots one for me.
Yeah, and I know that if Baker does miss time, it's interesting. We saw Teddy Bridgewater out there, but of course it's very different when you are coming in knowing you're going to be the starter maybe and getting more of those reps during the week, in practice. And so what did we see a little bit from Teddy in that game, if he is the guy moving forward, and what we could maybe expect if he is given a little bit more of that starter rep in practice, more time with the wide receivers, and how much that could affect what he's able to do? Yeah,
he looked really comfortable in the pocket. You didn't see him trying to stutter step and move out of the way. He just sat there and delivered the ball pretty accurate as well for not playing for as long. And even I think he didn't play it last year either. He was coaching, so that's almost a year and 3 quarters a season that he hasn't played. So I thought he came in pretty good. The one thing difference from Baker is when the pocket does break down, he wasn't able to move out of the way and create things with his feet as much as Baker, though. That's the only difference that I saw. But as far as delivering the ball on time and accurate, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and in terms of the pass rush, this game, this season overall, what have you seen about maybe why there have been certain times in games where, man, we're getting home, we're getting there a lot, and then other games where it's been a lot tougher to try to get some of that pressure?
Yeah, a lot of times I think it's the opponents, if they have a better offensive line. And then I think the guys yesterday they were showing that they doubled Vita pretty much every single play. So that should open up some other guys. And if we're not getting there with Matthew Stafford, he gets the ball out so quick that you could have a great pass rush. And there was times that we were having great pass rush, but he just got the ball out right before he got hit. So, yes, we want to get there and we want to put pressure on the opponent's quarterback and we want to hit the opponent's quarterback. But there's times that these guys get the ball out so quick that there's really no time to get there.
Yeah, that looked very unfun for Vita in the game. That guy was getting doubled. It happens a lot. Like he gets doubled a lot. He is definitely one of the key guys to watch on that defensive front, but it felt like this game seemed like even more often than typical. For them to feature on TV and they played play after play after play, I felt so bad. It's the same thing. You feel like this poor guy's going to be out of gas. I don't think they showed one rep where he was single teamed. It was pretty much every single time, and not with a back or a tight end. No, the center, the guard on him every play. So it was tough. Yeah, that's brutal. And I did see Yaya seemed like he got some pressure a few times. We saw him get that sack early in the game, and then we also saw there was a screen pass that he read so well, almost tipped it, and then got the nice tackle. It almost seemed like he couldn't decide, should I intercept this or should I just try to blow it up? And so we saw he was getting some of those effective plays. What did you see from him in this game, and then just his season overall and the kind of pass rush we feel like we know he is and can be in his progression? Yeah, you always know that he probably, even himself could say he could probably be better than what he's been. But yesterday he was so close. That would have been maybe a pick six. He was like inches away from picking. And that's a tough decision. Do I go? Do I not go? And when he made the decision to try to go to intercept it, it was just by nothing that he missed and then turned around and made the tackle. But he's been all over the place. I feel like the defense, we have a fast defense that when we do tackles, they're all there. So it's a smothering defense. It's just sometimes you have a little breakdown here and there that you see that big play, and then it kind of erases all the good things that they're doing because of one big play. Yeah. And when their big plays have been given up, which it was more so in the last 2 games before this one, and especially the first 5 or 6 of the season didn't have nearly as many as then those last 2 or 3 before this. What does it seem to be, what's happening kind of on those big plays giving up, and what needs to change because it does feel like you're right that they'll hold them so well 90-something% of the time, and then it's just those few plays that end up being the downfall.
Well, a lot of times either a broken play or one player out of position, injuries as well. When you have guys out that have been here for a while, and Jamel Dean being out, that's huge because he's our most physical corner, big corner, besides obviously Anton Winfield, that he pretty much takes everybody's head off if they let him. He could play in our old era, like a John Lynch, and then they have to kind of pull the reins back. If not, he's all over the place. So that's the thing, when you have an aggressive defense, sometimes if you're out of place, that is where you get a big play. Even in our era, with our guys as good as they were, sometimes if a team got a big play, it's because we were so aggressive and so fast to the ball.
Yeah, and Jamel has had a great season to this point prior to getting injured, and we saw those picks, which that was the one area of his game that he knew he needed to step up a bit, and he has this year. What have you seen of what that's meant to the defense and why this year's Jamel seems to have taken it to that next step?
Every year, you get more experience, and then I feel like you get more mature as well, and you learn the game more. So I think he's been in the right place, and now obviously he's probably worked on his hands to make sure that when the ball hits my hands, I'm going to catch it instead of knocking it down. And I thought obviously the injury kind of put a damper on his season because he was having a great year, and that's what you hear the guys talk, how good they talk about him, because such a good guy, such a hard worker. He's a good role model for the younger corners, and it's sad to see him go out on it with an injury because he was having a career year.
I know not maybe Zion McCollum's favorite game that he had. What have you seen from him overall this season, and some of the things he's done well, and then where you've seen him struggle a little bit?
Well, he's done a really good job. That first touchdown, he couldn't have covered it any better. That was just a perfect pass, perfect reception. Sometimes you just can't do much about it. There was nothing you can do when they do a perfect play. I thought he's having a decent year when it comes to like covering the deep ball. Sometimes where I feel like, and maybe depending on the zone or the type of defense that they're playing, where he just gets caught looking at the quarterback, and that's where the deep ball's been hurting him a couple times. But other than that, I thought he's having a really good year. He's making tackles. He's in every play. When you see a tackle, he's in it. So it's not a guy that's just afraid to hit people. So yesterday's touchdown, you can't really do much about that one. When the first one, when he covered it perfect, and you got to give credit when the opponent has a perfect play that you really can't cover.
Yeah, and it does seem like the run defense in particular, still, we know that's been a staple and a focus of a Todd Bowles defense for a long time, is stopping the run first and foremost, and it helps when you have a Vita Vea plugging up those holes up there. But it does feel like even when things aren't going well defensively, they're still stopping the run pretty well. Again, maybe one or two plays that you give up really big gains, but it felt like even in that game against the Rams where they had this big lead, you'd normally expect them to run the ball a lot more than they did. It felt like you could tell they still respected our run defense so much that even with that lead, they were still throwing the ball.
Absolutely. You would think after, getting up by a few points that, okay, you expect more runs, and we weren't seeing that. A combination, too, Matthew Stafford's such a good quarterback that they know they're not going to get a lot of incomplete passes, so they're still going to be able to run the clock without having to run the ball. But our defense, that's our strength, that teams don't run on us, and obviously it starts with Vita Vea, but then Levante Davis being so smart, covering whatever gaps available. And so I think, and then obviously Anton Winfield just covering from behind. So we have that backbone, and it reminds me kind of like our backbone back in the day, because nobody really ran on us much because they knew we had big guys up front, our linebackers were smart, and then obviously we had safeties that would finish off whatever got through. So I think that's why they respect our run defense so much that they figure, okay, let's just keep throwing. And even short completions, still you can run the clock out. So that's where I thought the Rams chose that route, because they figured they weren't going to be able to run the ball with us against us.
Makes sense, yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. We're talking to Bucs legend Martín Gramática. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with my special guest, Martín Gramática. Let's talk a little bit about the O-line. What they've had to deal with this year is just insane. How have you seen them handle it, all the different combinations, and then now it feels like we have at least stabilized a little bit of who's starting at what positions and what's going on. So as the O-line is now, and then just looking at the season overall, what have you seen of how they've been able to handle this?
Well, you could say it's incredible the way they've adjusted to pretty much playing all different type of positions, all different formation, basically. Like, okay, you go on this side, I go on that side. I feel like right now they feel comfortable running to the left side again. I think with Tristan Wirfs' injury, it took him a little while to get his feet under him, and it's normal. He's been the best in the league since he came to the league,
Yeah.
and then an injury like that and being out for a little bit takes time to get your legs under him. And I felt like yesterday they felt comfortable running to the left side, and we were productive on the left side because now he's starting to feel better and getting that strength back.
And I think about Josh Grizzard coming into this role and what he had to imagine he could make this offense. And then this poor guy would just lose. Oh, but now you're not going to have Mike or Chris or Bucky or half your offensive line. I mean, that's a tough challenge for any offensive coordinator, much less a first-year play caller. How have you seen him handle that? And just how difficult does that make his job, having to adjust so many different times and even sometimes midweek, not knowing exactly which of these guys are going to be available or not?
Well, it's very difficult. I think the consistent part was that you had Baker. So now, and then our receivers have stepped up. So the weapons, even though we lost Mike and Chris, and Bucca stepped up and has done a phenomenal job as a rookie. I mean, you can't even tell the kid's a rookie. You know, he's so mature when you hear him in the press conference and you hear him doing interviews, but also his play. Very mature, very excellent route runner. Because he's always in the spot that he needs to be. So I think that's helped. But when you come in week after week with different players, you've got to be creative, and he's done that with our play calling. You know, we're unpredictable. Where at times we used to be so predictable. If we could tell in the booth what's coming, then you know how the opponent's going to know what's coming, and they're not going to be able to stop it. In this case, I feel like he's done a really good job of being unpredictable and having the jet sweeps. I really like a lot, especially with the speed that we have at receivers now, utilizing those a lot more than we've ever had in the past, I believe. So I think those type of plays, the wide receiver screens that are we used to just throw it to Chris Godwin back in the day. Mm-hmm. Now you're spread around. You don't know who's getting it. So I think that's been a good mix, and I like the way he's mixing the ball and getting everybody involved. That's huge too. That helps the offense when you get everybody in rhythm.
Yeah, and the run game, it's been interesting to watch. Without Bucky recently, the way that they've chosen to use Rashad and Sean Tucker, and we've had last week both of them averaged over 5 yards a carry, which is ideal. And Rashad also had over 5 yards a carry last night's game. So what have you seen about the way the two of them have stepped up, the way they each get used, and just what that duo? I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that would be a great duo. The fact that we do also have Bucky and
right.
maybe coming back this next week, which if so, that'd be a huge boost. But what just a Rashad and Sean Tucker backfield does for an offense?
Well, Rashad was a starter a few years ago for a reason. He's that good. So now when you lose Bucky, you have a guy that had been a starter. The pressure of being the starter doesn't weigh on him, and he's done a really good job. And then Sean Tucker, anytime we give him the ball, he does something positive. So it's like you have three excellent running backs. And that's one of the things when we talked about, like even last year, where they weren't giving Tucker enough carries. Well, who do you give him to? Bucky's having a great year. And then you have Rashad that had been a starter. That's decent. So sometimes you don't have enough carry for three excellent running backs. And so that's where one position that when you have an injury, you have two other guys that can step up, and you don't really feel it. You feel the energy and the excitement, like those electrified plays that Bucky has. But as far as productivity, those guys have done a great job.
And then I know we got Chris back, which huge boost, I'm sure, even just mentally, emotionally, of having a guy like him back. But we also knew they were probably going to ease him back in a little bit. So in the snaps he got, how did he look? And in your mind, what are the expectations of getting a guy like him back and how that could affect your other wide receivers, your pass game overall, and depending on what version of Chris we get at what point?
Yeah, I think it's going to motivate all the other guys to step up because they have been doing a really good job. But when Chris comes in, he's part of the starting group. It'll take some pressure off of Bucca because now he knows, okay, they're going to have to either double team him or, depending on how we utilize him. But it's just about getting momentum and rhythm. He's been out for a while. His injuries are serious injuries. It's not like he's coming out from a twisted ankle or something that he's missed a couple games. So he's going to have to get in rhythm. He's going to have to get in game shape because it doesn't matter how hard you train off the field. The game shape is different, the adrenaline of the game, the stress of the game. So I think they did a really good job of easing him in because I think there's times where you need him so bad in the past that we'd put him in and you go from not playing to like, okay, you're playing every snap. And that's dangerous for a guy to go from not playing to playing every snap. Yeah. And I think that they did a really good job of just easing him in and trying to get him. And once he gets in rhythm and gets momentum, then he's going to be the Chris that we know, but we just don't want to rush him.
Yeah, and it just even having him back for some distractions out there too, because, it does feel like Emeka, he learned very quickly what it's like to be a wide receiver one in this league. It was one thing when there was Mike and Chris, and then people just forgot about him maybe a bit, and he's getting all these touchdowns, all these yards. And then have you seen a pretty big shift on the attention given to him, and that maybe he's one of the biggest people that would benefit from Chris being back?
Oh, 100%, because once we lost Mike and Chris, he had to be the guy. And he went from, he's going to be our future number one,
to right this minute.
Right. We need you now to step up. But he's done a great job because there's a lot of pressure. When you come in and you have Mike and Chris, then okay, now I can just develop slowly. There's not going to be any pressure on me because these guys are going to take the majority of the big plays. I'll just do a few plays here and there and it'll be fine. And all of a sudden, overnight, he becomes a starter, or the number one, not the starter, the number one. So, but he's handled it really well. And I think having Chris back is going to take that pressure off, because now once Chris gets back in rhythm, who do you double team or who do you focus more on? So it's going to open up some stuff for him too, because he has been, the focus of our offense since the two main guys went down.
Yeah, and I think he's exceeded even the highest of expectations, which is unreal. I mean, I worried about that before the season, hearing how people talked about him. I'm like, man, can anyone live up to this description? And he 100% has, and exceeded it even more. And someone else that has exceeded expectations is Tez Johnson. I mean, a 7th-round pick. He is second in the NFL for rookie touchdowns, and he's second only to Emeka. We have the top two receiving touchdown rookies in the league, both on our team. Now, part of that is a necessity, of course, of a lot of people got hurt. They were both asked to step up bigger even than we expected them to. But how impressed have you been with the way that Tez has stepped up to that call, and especially as a touchdown threat?
No, it's been extremely impressive, because we thought he was going to be one of those burners that you're just going to go deep and throw like old Scotty Miller type, where you're just going to use him in a certain place. But he's making great receptions in traffic. The one touchdown yesterday, where the ball was thrown a little bit behind him, but he still came back and snagged it. The corner was right there. So, I mean, it was defended really well, but he made the play. So he's made plays and obviously the jet sweeps with his speed too. And I thought on that one he kind of stopped. If he would have kept going, he probably would have. He had a little bit of hope. But I think he saw the space on the outside and tried to cut and go to the outside. But again, that gives you another side of our speed that we haven't really had with a receiver like that. And he's making the catches. So it's not like he's just a fast guy that you're only going to catch it when he's wide open. He's catching it in traffic, which is impressive for a guy his size.
Yeah, and the rookies in general, we're talking to Bucs legend Martín Gramática. The rookies have had to contribute in so many different ways of both of those guys. And then Elijah Roberts has been, I think, a really pleasant surprise of how quickly he's adapted to a slightly different position and had to step up also in the wake of Kalijah goes down. And, you have Jacob Parrish, who's really come on strong. That you've had several rookies who have not only just been asked to play, but have been game changers and made really important plays for us, maybe even sooner than we thought. How great has that been to see, just the way that we're able to, obviously draft so well, develop these guys quickly, and just have so many rookies that, as you look at the future of this team, what they've done?
And that's impressive. First, obviously, it starts with the draft and drafting guys that you don't expect to play right away. But we have to give credit to our coaching staff to getting them ready to play right away, because we really haven't felt the absence of you're going to feel the absence of these superstars, but these guys have stepped up enough that you don't call them rookies, or they're not making these big rookie mistakes. They're already so mature and so developed and so ready to play that we haven't really seen much. And with Parrish, he's coming in and making huge plays, and we're not seeing that. We're not calling him a rookie out there. He's just another player and making plays. So I think they've done a really good job of developing these young kids, but also you got to give credit for the draft, because these are guys that we've used right away, and they've stepped in and done a great job. Yeah, and first round, late round, all of it. One of the biggest MVPs to me of our defense has been Tyke Smith. It's been so interesting to watch him get to, it reminds me so much of the Antoine Winfield trajectory of both of them, they can play nickel, they're so talented, they can do all these different things, but then getting them into their true position at safety, watching them just flourish and thrive. That for you, watching how Tyke was able to come in again as a rookie, play really well, but then now take it to a whole new level, what has stood out about the contributions he's made and what he now means to this defense? Well, with Winfield Jr., you have two safeties that you can count on to not have any mental breakdowns or any, scheme breakdowns. They're very smart players. They're, like I said earlier, they're in every play. So every time there's a tackle, they're in the bunch. and then obviously there's no broken plays in coverage, which that's huge because that's the safeties have to protect all your teammates. So they've done a good job with that. So, and I think with Antoine Winfield, he's learned a lot because we nicknamed him the grandfather Winfield when he came in because he had the experience of an old guy as a rookie, and that's what he's doing. He's helping these younger players, and that's why we're not noticing how young they are. So the future's bright if we keep in the same trajectory where they keep getting better, but also learning the NFL too, because it takes a little bit of time to learn. But these guys have done a great job of just stepping in, and he's done a great job of being in every play.
And of course, I can't have you here and not talk about our special teams unit. I'm amazed we've made it this long into the show. But yeah, we got to talk about.
We're going to open with that.
Yeah, we can't overlook your special teams units over here. So first, let's talk a little bit about Chase and his year of kicking. What stands out to you about just his reliability, especially when it comes to longer field goals, and what that's meant to this offense?
I mean, he's done an incredible job since he's gotten here. So he's when you talk about his percentage, the long kicks, I mean, he's the best kicker we've ever had. I mean, this guy's incredible and just such a nice guy, such a humble guy, because he doesn't get too high, too low. And early on, he had a little bit of a struggle. Everybody said, "Oh, we need a new kicker." I'm like, "Are you guys out of your mind?" And all of a sudden, he kicks a 65-yard, and everybody's happy that we have Chase.
Yeah, thank goodness we didn't get rid of him. Yeah,
exactly. So it's funny because I saw Jason Light at one of the practices. I said, "Well, good thing you didn't listen to all the
all the
crowd."
Fans, cut him now.
I'm glad you don't listen to that stuff.
Yeah, it's quite a "what have you done for me lately" league.
But that's the thing. As a kicker, you know that,
yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're everybody's best friend, and then all of a sudden everybody hates you. But Chase has been so consistent, so good, and meaningful kicks too, because he makes any pressure kick. You can guarantee that it's going down the middle, and then obviously the 65-yard was so impressive. There's a video, Santiago and I watching it when we were calling the game. It took us like 5 seconds to get there. It was so long.
It's so long. You're like, it's going.
It's going. Come on, get there. But no, I'm so happy for him because he's such a good guy. Anytime I run into him, we run into him at the grocery store near our house, and he's such a good person. So you want good people to have success, and he's just love watching him succeed.
So tell me the challenges of, this is something that I don't feel like has been talked about a whole lot this year, of now him doing kickoffs, that has not always been the case, that, we've had punters do it sometimes. And as a kicker, how much does that add to your workload? How much does that change your leg, just everything about what that requires of you, both in practice and the game and the season overall?
So I think back in the day, it was a lot more stress on the kicker because you had to kick the touchbacks, and the kickoff was different. Now it's more they're using their field goal step, and they're just trying to kick it basically to the goal lines, because if they kick it in the end zone, they get it at the 35. So they're trying to land it in that landing zone. So as far as wear and tear, I don't think it's taking too much off the kicker's legs like it used to back then, when you had to kick it 5, 6, 7 deep if you could, or out of the end zone. There was no returns. That's what the special teams coaches wanted. So I don't think it's a good question, but I don't think it's going to affect them, and it could be actually beneficial because he's using his field goal step, so maybe an extra rep to see how the ball flies, see if the wind's moving it at all. So it could be actually beneficial if he's using it. And a smart guy like him, he probably is using it to see how the ball's flying.
That's so interesting. I'd never thought of it that way. So now I need to hear your thoughts on these new kickoff rules, because I mean, Scott Smith and I, and on our show, and Bree Dix on Insider, we have debated these rules many times, that Scott has gone on a soapbox several times about his hatred of these rules. And it does seem like just a massive change on the offenses and last second what you can make happen. And just especially now we're seeing these kickers be able to kick such long field goals.
Yes.
And you're getting to maybe start at the 35. It feels like it has really affected a lot about the game.
I personally hate the kickoff rule, and it's actually, for the kickers, it's beneficial because you don't have to kick it as hard, and now you can save your leg. But I don't like the fact that you're taking away the surprise onside kick. If you look at the Saints, kicked a surprise onside kick in a Super Bowl to win a Super Bowl and get an extra possession. So it's a big.
Well, that alone should have made us get rid of it if it's the Saints that benefited from it.
I'm just bringing that up because I can remember that one. But I remember we used to use it as well, as where I would just aim at a guy's chest, and if it hit the guy, then it's a live ball, we could get it. Or if it goes through the guy, now you look, it's a squib kick, so there's no damage. So there's times where you could use it to try to get another possession. So that part of it, you're taking a huge part of the game away. So I personally don't like it, but I'm sure kickers are liking it because they don't have to kick it as hard.
That's interesting. Yeah, and it's changed a lot about the special teams units and even the type of player you want for that, which is also interesting because we know special teams units can have such an impact on who even makes the roster at some of these lower positions. And so now it feels almost like you need it's like an extra defensive position and changes the type of guys you want out there.
Right. The other thing, too, I don't think we'll ever see a Devin Hester, somebody break a record like that, because there's not too many balls that are returnable anymore. Even in punts, these guys are hitting the ball so high and so that they're fair catching pretty much every ball. So it does change. I think the way special teams are viewed is a little bit different. The returns, you don't see as many as you did back in the day when you couldn't kick it in the end, because the kickoff was from the 30 with a different ball. So now there were more returns. So that's where I think it has changed. So you can be a little more selective on who you use. And guys used to make the team because of how good they were on special teams. I'm not sure return or even coverage.
Yeah.
And now you're not really having to cover so much, so I don't know if that's helped or hurt some guys, maybe hurt some guys making the team.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know, unfortunately, in last week's game, several big kick returns given up. What have you seen from the special teams units so far for the Bucs this year on things they're doing well, and then when they've had struggles like that, what's led to it?
I think you get so used to not having to cover that when the ball doesn't go where it needs to go, or doesn't go in the end zone, or the other team decides to run it out, then you're kind of not ready for it and maybe out of position. So that's, I think, where it's just part of, just being alert, being ready, and expect every ball to be returned. And now if it's not, then you're fine. But if it is, you have to be ready. And I think that may be a little bit lack of, just being aware if the ball's going to go in the end zone or not, and just that tenth of a second of thinking, oh, it's going to be a touchback, I'm not going to sprint. Oh, I should have sprinted. So that's where the difference is. But I think that's probably it. But they seem to have fixed it this week. Where the last couple weeks ago, it looked pretty rough. But I think they have fixed it. The good thing is they never scored. If you keep them from scoring, you still have a chance. That's the thing. Don't let them score.
No returns for touchdowns. Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to take another break here on the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. We've got Bucs legend Martín Gramática here with us. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with my special guest, Bucs legend Martín Gramática. So, of course, we're breaking down some special team stuff here. So Riley Dixon, I know last year the Bucs went through a few different punters. There was just a lot in flux there. Now, I know Riley Dixon has had some great punts, some not great punts, same thing even yesterday. So what have you seen from kind of his ups and downs and what he's brought to the unit overall?
Well, I think his ups are more effective than his downs. He's had everybody has a ball that they miss hit here and there, but his bad balls have not been horrible. Where in the last year and a half, we've had some really bad balls where, that you expect an NFL guy to hit. So with Riley, he's been very consistent. He's getting them pinned inside the 20, which he's done a really good job with that. So I think it's been an upgrade. And the biggest thing, too, Chase feels comfortable with him as a holder as well, because that's one of the things a lot of people think, the punter will switch a punter in and out, no big deal. But then they're also the holder 90% of the time. Yeah. So they have to have good chemistry, and I think he's done a really good job of holding as well. But on the punting side, I think he's been an upgrade from what we've had the last couple of years for sure.
I think holding seems like the worst job in the world. Personally, I get stressed thinking about how hard it seems to do and how underrated our appreciation for it seems. We just assume it's going to happen every time, and it can royally mess things up for a kicker. And so I would love to hear how that relationship is between kicker and holder and the practice that goes into it, and truly how hard it is to do.
Well, it's like the long snapper and the holder. You don't really know who they are until there's a mistake, really. Yeah. I mean, I'm not being mean, but people don't talk about who's holding or who's long snapping.
You only hear their names if something goes wrong. Yeah.
Right. But it's very difficult because not only do you have to catch the ball, you got to know where the laces are. So if the laces aren't facing the goalpost, you've got to turn them as you're putting them down. Then you have to hit the spot, and everything happens from snap to kick in 1.28, 1.31 seconds. So it's that quick.
That's crazy.
And you have a coach with their stopwatch making sure the kicker doesn't go too slow, making sure the snap, and there's guys that actually can have this laces facing the goalpost a lot of the time. That's why you move it either 8 yards in 6 inches, a yard and a foot, just to make sure that, because the rotation is pretty consistent, so they'll just catch it and put it down. So there is some art to it as well. Some long snappers are excellent where they could just have it laces out.
That's
and it's
crazy.
A lot easier for the holder, but also you got and you have to have trust, and that's where When I was on a team, the punters is who you hang out the most, and the long snappers. So the three of you guys create that chemistry that's great. To this day, with Tom Tupa, we see each other all the time, and we talk all the time. And Royals, I see them around town. So these guys that you create that relationship, you have to trust that the ball's going to be there, because the kicker leaves before the ball's put down. So the kicker leaves when that left hand is lifted to go catch the ball. So that's where you have to trust that everything is going to be perfect, because we're leaving and we're moving before there's even a ball put in the spot.
It feels like that wide receiver quarterback connection where they're throwing the ball before the wide receiver is where they're supposed to be, that you just have to have that kind of trust and chemistry. And I don't think I've ever heard of it talked about that way with long snapper, holder, and kicker, that it's that same predictive chemistry. I have heard guys maybe give the special teams unit a little grief that it felt like they were getting to just kind of hang out a little at practice, be done sooner. Did you feel like you ever caught flack like that?
Well, I mean, always.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, especially, who are we going to talk back to, though?
Yeah, that's very true.
That's the one thing. You can say whatever they want. We're not going to be able to talk back to anybody. But the thing is, you can't kick for 2.5 hours. You can't snap for 2.5 hours or punt for 2.5 hours. So you get your job done. You get your work done. A lot of times, we'll go to the weight room. We'll do other things. I mean, stretching, flexibility work, strength. So you can do a lot of other things, but you can't be out kicking for 2.5 hours. So that's the thing, where it looks like kickers are being a little more lazy. But these guys are such professionals now. I think it changed a lot, like my era coming in. Majority of us are all former soccer players. We like to be around the guys, like to be around the practice field, where the older guys used to play a lot of golf. So that I understand why they used to
get mad at them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they used to get a few kicks and then go to the golf course, go to the range. And I've played with some guys that did that. I'm like, I don't like golf, so I'm gonna stick around here. The thing is, as a kicker, you want your teammates to know, look, you're gonna miss. That's the one thing that's gonna happen. Eventually you're gonna miss a kick. I never want my teammates to say, oh, he's missing because he's being lazy or he's not here. So I always wanted to be around. Off-season workouts, wanted to be around, because if something does go wrong, they know it's gonna happen. And it could happen to anybody, but it's not happening because you're lazy. And I think that's changed a lot, where these kickers are hard workers now.
I imagine mentally, to me, the two potentially hardest positions in terms of being able to deal with failure is kicker and maybe like a corner giving up a touchdown. Like those feel like the biggest, like, eyes are on you. And it felt like it was a little easier to diagnose that you were the problem in that situation. Right. What do you feel like are the biggest challenges mentally as a kicker, and what separates the good from the great in how you handle pre-kick, like what that is like mentally and the approaches of that, and then post-miss and recovery from that?
Well, there's so many kickers that can kick 50, 60, even 70-yarders that don't make it because of the mental side of the game. The mental side is the biggest thing, because you have to have short memory whether you make the kick or not. Obviously, you have to have your preparation and your process prior to the kick, where everything in your mind, obviously talking positive. As a kicker, as soon as you doubt yourself, as soon as you doubt that ball's going to go in, it's over. It's not going in. So you have to talk yourself into being positive. But then if there is a big miss, you've got to let it go, because that miss cannot affect the next kick. And your next kick is the most important kick always. So that's the way you have to approach it. And that's the way, coaching my kids, helping my kids out, I'm really strong with that part of it, because I know the mental side is the hardest part. Physically, there's so many guys that can hit the ball straight, hit the ball a long ways. And at times the mental side is what hurts them. So the mental side is for a kicker, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Your foot is the last thing to touch the ball. So no matter what happens, they're going to say, oh, he made it or missed it. So, and there's no in between. Yeah. There's not too many positions where you can say there's no in between, where you could hit the ball great, feel great off your foot, and it doesn't go in. You look at it, I'm like, I've hit balls where I'm like, oh, I crushed this. When I look up, it's not going in. And then there's the other ones where like, oh man, there's no way this is going in. I mishit this ball so bad, and then you look up and it's going straight. I'm like, okay, thank God for that one. So, but people don't know that, you know. So it's just, the mental side is just it's just a big thing for kicking. So tell me, I feel like when I watch and a ball doinks off the upright, that feels like it should just never happen. Of the percent of the space that is an upright, is like, if I told the kicker to hit it, it feels like it would be almost impossible. It's such a small amount of where it could go. What is the thought as a kicker if you do that, and just like why I feel like we see that happen more than it should from just an odds standpoint? If you really want my real thoughts, you're gonna have to beep what I want to say. Oh yeah, we can do that. Let's not we have a beep button. Let's not say exactly what I want to say, because it's so frustrating. Because like you said, it's so that the goalposts are so narrow. You're kicking from so far away. And I would say 99% of the time, it hits the upright and it comes back or it goes to the side. It never bounces and goes in. It's very rare that
Very rare.
they hit the upright, it goes in. It feels like if it touches an upright, it's not supposed to go in. It's as a kicker, it's the most frustrating thing. I don't know. I think I'd rather just shank a ball and miss it way wide than have it hit, because you have that hope that it's going in, and then the goalpost.
And it's so loud. They make it like the microphone on TV is turned up so loud. It's like when they do that in the NBA and you miss a bad brick shot. It's so loud. We're talking to Bucs legend Martín Gramática. Were you superstitious as a kicker?
Very much so,
yeah.
Yes.
Are you allowed to say now that your career's over, can we talk about the superstitions? Guys that are superstitious typically don't like to talk about it in the process.
No, I don't mind now, but there's so much. It was ridiculous. I would carry my own cleats. I took 5 pairs, so 10 shoes in my carry-on bag. I wore special tights that were like neoprene that had. And one time, as a joke, they hid my cleat bag, and I was like stressed. This is before a flight too, so little things like that. I had a prayer card. I wore a chain with a cross that I had to wear every game. So there was little things like that, and then just the mental stuff, and then. Green, like in Argentina, wearing something green's bad luck, so I made sure I never had any green on me. Even to your socks, make sure your travel stuff, nothing green. So there was little things like that.
I like that. That's pretty great.
It gets pretty crazy though.
I can imagine. I can understand that. Why do you think kickers are kicking it so far? It feels like even just this season in particular of like, oh, we have this new record long. Oh, now we have a new record long. Oh, now we have a new record long for outdoor. Like, it just feels like suddenly it's hitting a new level.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Number one, the kickers are getting stronger. They're training different. Back in the day, we had the same workout as everybody else. They put it on the board, and the O-line pretty much did the same workout as I did, but obviously,
I love this.
Much less weight, obviously. Yeah. let me go ahead and
let me specify.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm about to be really impressed right now.
No. They were benching me, but I was benching the bar. My first workout in college was very embarrassing. The girls on the volleyball team were benching more than I was, so I'm like. After that, I'm like, man,
I got to step my game up.
I got to get in the weight room. So, so there was really no specific training, and most of us were soccer players that became kickers. Now, kids are starting the technique of kicking much younger. I see my kids helping little guys out that are middle school that are kicking. There's kicking camps where thousands of kids learn how to kick a football. So that's where they've become more accurate, stronger. And then the K-ball, now this year they're able to break them in, I guess kick them during the week. I'm not sure exactly the rules, but I know my rookie year was the K-ball where they went straight to the stadium and they had 30 minutes of brush, and we would tell them brush the first 3 because we would hopefully never get to ball 4, because if not, it was untouched. Where I think the balls are a little bit different, but still, the distances and the accuracy that they're kicking it has to do with them learning how to kick younger, and obviously the strength and specific training for leg speed and leg power.
All right, that's interesting. We're going to take another break. We have one more segment coming up here on the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. We got Martín Gramática here. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into the Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Bucs legend Martín Gramática. So now, first of all, I love that you have just produced all these kids that are also awesome at not only kicking the football, but also your daughter's incredible at flag football. What has it been like for you to watch now you're, kicking at USF and your daughter, I think, is going to try and hopefully make the Olympic flag football team? Like, man, you've done good here.
Well, my wife did. Wife.
Yes.
I give her all the credit.
Yes.
She's the athlete. She played tennis at USF. That's a lot harder. No, it's for us, since she played tennis, I grew up playing soccer, loved football, so we love sports. And for them to embrace and love sports, it's a blessing, because we are at a football field or a soccer field, or always something going on the weekends involving sports and family, which is the best thing for us. So I was super proud, obviously, of Nico for what he's done at USF, super proud of his team and Coach Golich. They've done a great job this year, and just happy that he stayed close to home in a quality program, because 5 years ago, who knows if we would have wanted him to go to USF, because it wasn't great. Now, not only are they winning, they're just good people there and teaching these kids great value. So we love what Coach Golich is doing. And then Nico's been a really great role model for his, younger brother and sister, and then obviously for his nephews too. They come to every game and follow him. So it's been an awesome time for the family. And again, ups and downs. Very stressful. They asked me, do you enjoy watching Nico's games? I go, not at all.
Not at all.
Not a chance that we enjoy them.
Yeah.
It's 4.5 hours of like just
agony.
Yes, we're on the edge of our seats. And I always want to warn people and apologize. I said, we're really not rude. We're just there to watch Nico and his team, obviously, but we just want to make sure, we want to give him such good vibes that I'm not paying attention to anybody, and we just focus on him and hoping that he does well. And then obviously his brother's going there in a few weeks now, so he just finished his high school season. So to have both of them on the same team is just incredible. And
to be playing in the same stadium you did, that's got to be kind of a wild feeling.
It is. It's hard to describe, but it's just like, as a family, we're so proud. And Nico has a longer field than I have at Raymond James.
That's so funny.
They remind me that all the time.
I'm sure he does.
His brother does for him.
That's nice.
Yeah. G does all the talking. He does. Nico's more of the quiet. He just does his thing. But G likes to talk, and he reminds me that all the time. Which, listen, as a dad, I want them to break every one of my records. I don't care what it is. I want them to be 1,000% better. So I'm happy for that.
And I think I know the answer already based on what you said, but more nervous for you to have to step up for a game winner, or more nervous watching your son kick a field goal?
Doesn't even compare. 1,000% more nervous for Nico. Or Nico or G for watching them kick a game winner, or any kick. Because we have no control. We don't know how they're feeling. We don't know. We watch their warm-ups. We know how they're doing. But at the end of the day, we're not in their head. As much as we want to be there and want to support and give them as many positive vibes as possible, when you're not in control, just so hard to watch. But it's, again, very proud of them though.
We're talking to Bucs legend Martín Gramática, and how cool for the way that the Buccaneers have poured so much into girls flag football, and your daughter's gotten to be the recipient of some of those efforts and be such a big part of this movement and the way it's grown over the years. What's that been like for you to get to partner with your team you played for with your daughter as well?
It's incredible. That one of the photo shoots that we did, one of the photos, they put our face next to each other. That's my favorite photo, and it was here at Raymond James, or at the facility. And just the way flag football has grown, I can't believe how fast it's going. Because her first travel tournament was 2 years ago in Philadelphia. It was 150 all-girls teams, and now every tournament keeps getting bigger every time we go, and more competitive. Because it used to be where you had a couple teams that dominated. Now there's teams coming out of everywhere and just coming where girls are playing it at a level that it's incredible to watch. The way they throw the ball, the way they catch the ball. It's just so much fun. And now they're talking maybe a future in college, like D1 schools. I believe somebody said Colorado may have already started it. I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate, but that's a great way for girls to have a pathway to play at a higher level and play the sport that we all love. Because there was time, and when you talk to older women, they're like, I wish they would have had that when we were younger. I wish
that would be me.
There you go. See, so now these girls have that opportunity to do that, and just so much fun to watch. And for the Bucs to pour so much into the flag football and help out in the area, and they do the scholarships, they do the events here, the high school championships. I mean, they filled the indoor, which is awesome to watch that kind of environment for girls flag football.
Yeah, and for you to get to stay connected to the team that way, but also to get to do Spanish radio. Tell me what this has been like for you, to learn this new skill, and just what you enjoy most about staying connected to football and to the Buccaneers in this specific way.
Well, I love it because the Bucs are my team. The Bucs is Tampa's home, and to be able to come to every game, cover every game, cheer, because whether they're like, we're homers. Yeah, we want the Bucs to win. We're the Bucs Spanish radio, so we're going to do it. And the best part about it now is to be able to do it with Santiago, my youngest brother. That's the play-by-play, just the chemistry that we have, and he's done a great job because he's never done play-by-play. He had to step into that role this year.
Big job.
And he's done a really good job with it. And we do a more of a conversational type, and from what we hear, and obviously my wife is going to be our biggest critic, because the first game we weren't very good together, and she pretty much told us, you got to do this better, that better, that better.
I love
so
it.
We took notes, and I think we're getting better because we haven't really had any complaints from her. So
that's the only voice that matters.
Well, there are some other people that actually send us messages on social media, and it's all been positive, so that's a good thing. So that's awesome to do with him, but also to be around the team, around people that worked that are still here that when I was playing, but to get to know new people and see the team just compete and just be here on Sundays. It's just so much fun because this is home for us, and that's one of the things I've always said. The Bucs have always made us feel at home after we were done. And I know you guys call us legends to make us feel better, but it means we're old. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to be welcomed back and be part of the team as well.
That's great. And okay, so if you were going to step in and do color for the English radio, like Dave Moore's job, versus doing it what you do for Spanish? What is the biggest difference? What are you having to do differently, or the style differences, English versus Spanish radio?
Well, there's two things. The excitement of Spanish, we call it like a soccer game. So it's the touchdown, the scores are very exciting. And then on the English side, they'll know how little football I know as a kicker. They'll be like, we need somebody smart like Dave.
Somebody like Dave, yeah.
Yes. So that's why the good thing with the Spanish, though, because we're educating our listeners as well. So we break it down to very elementary explanations at times, because there's some of our listeners have never played football, never watched football. They just want to hear it in our language. So we're able to tell them what an incomplete pass is, what a fumble is, what a turnover. Sometimes some of our fans that listen in Spanish have no idea what those things are. They think of anytime the ball hits the ground, it's a fumble. No, it's an incomplete pass. Fumble is, and you explain it. So we're able to educate as we call the game, which is pretty cool.
That's been an amazing thing to see, just as the NFL has expanded to international markets, and to realize the ways you do that of bringing in new fans at all different levels. And that's really cool for you guys to be focusing on that as well. And so now this Sunday, you're going to get a chance to call a game where also your former teammate gets put into the Ring of Honor. Simeon Rice is going in. How cool is that going to be for you to watch, and just what he meant to y'all's team, to everything that you guys were able to accomplish?
Yeah, Simeon's just an awesome guy, great guy, and everybody loved him in the locker room because he was that guy that just everybody got along with. He's just a different type of guy, but an awesome guy, and we're so happy for him. He deserves it. I mean, he's one of the guys that came in. We had a great defense, but when Simeon came in, it took us to another level. I mean, when you just look at it, the athlete that he is, when you look at his body, like, this guy is incredible, because with 3% body fat playing the position that he was playing with, and
Crazy.
just destroying quarterbacks. And the thing is, you look at him now, he looks like he could still play, but he's just a freak of nature. But the best thing is that he's a great guy, and everybody loved Simeon, so we're so happy from it. We feel like when guys go into the Hall of Fame or guys go into the Ring of Honor, if you played with him, you feel a little part of you is in that Hall of Fame, in that Ring of Honor, because we had such great times together. We worked so hard together. We spent so much time together that it's just great to see these guys going into the Ring of Honor.
That's amazing. And so now, all right, last stretch of the season, tell me, what are you hoping to see from the team, keys to the rest of this season getting turned around like it has in recent years out of this lull in the middle? What are they going to need to do?
Well, get healthy. I mean, that's the number one thing. If we get our players back, and hopefully we get them back at the right time when we need them. But I feel like that's the thing. And then just the consistency from the younger players, which we've seen, and hopefully they keep that up, and not to feel the pressure, because that's the thing. When you have younger players, they could start to feel the pressure of, it's coming to the end of the year. We need these 2 wins. We need that win. I feel like if we just keep one game at a time. But the biggest thing is getting guys back, and obviously praying that nothing's wrong with Baker's shoulder. That's the big number one thing right now, because we definitely need him. Yeah,
that's where all the thoughts are coming from, all the fans. Well, Martín, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure not a ton of sleep having called the late night game, so we really do appreciate it, and have loved hearing from you.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me. I had a great time.
All right, this has been The Players Table, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio.